In this video, we're going to have a look at Berkshire Hathaway, probably the biggest and most famous multinational conglomerate company in the world. Warren Buffett is renowned and will go into history as one of the most amazing investors of all time, and of course Warren Buffett is very much a value investor, which means that he buys stocks and companies that he believes are underpriced and buys them and holds them for a long time. So I think that's something we can all learn from Warren Buffett in that regard, but let's have a look at his company. Let's find out exactly what we think Berkshire Hathaway is worth here in 2023. So let's first have a look at that company profile. So of course, Warren Buffett is a key player for Berkshire Hathaway. But Warren also often says that he would be nothing without his right-hand man, Charlie Munger. And together they make a formidable financial duo. Berkshire Hathaway owns a lot of things within their portfolio. They own the Burlington North Santa Fe railroad track, which he bought after the financial depression in 2008. He bought BNSF in 2010 for a relatively low price. And of course, Warren Buffett very much believes into a company that has a big moat like railroad companies, so BNSF was a big addition to his portfolio. On top of this, he also owns Berkshire Hathaway Energy, which is a massive energy corporation in America. They operate coal, they operate gas, they operate renewables, mostly wind, and also a little bit of solar, a little bit of nuclear, and a little bit of hydroelectric. They have been growing their earnings steadily, and at this point is quite a large holding of the Berkshire Hathaway portfolio. Additionally, there are a lot of other enterprises that are also under the Berkshire Hathaway umbrella. We're talking about companies like Dairy Queen, we're talking about GEICO, we're talking about Duracel. They own a massive portfolio of other privatized companies. And of course, they also have quite a substantial amount of holdings. We're talking about treasury bills, we're talking about stocks, we're talking about cash on hand. Because of course Warren Buffett is known to be an amazing investor, so he also invests a lot into stocks. I think right now his portfolio consists of about 40% Apple shares, as well as a lot of other value, slow growing companies. So let's have a look at each of these segments of the business. So the first segment that we're going to have a look at is BNSF, the biggest railroad in America. And they have an earnings of $6 billion for the past 2 years and $5 billion the year prior to that. Their total debt is $23 billion, which is less than 4 times earnings. This debt level is lower than all the other railroad companies I've looked at. And assuming a PE of 25, which is on the higher end of railroad companies, but I think BNSF definitely deserves that, I get a valuation of $150 billion. Looking at Berkshire Energy, they have an earnings of $4.3 billion in 2022, where just about 2 years ago they were just over $3 billion. So they've been growing rapidly for the past 2 years. Of course, energy was very pricey for the past 2 years. Because of the COVID pandemic, because of the war in Ukraine, energy prices skyrocketed and Berkshire Energy could make use of that handsomely. They had earnings of $4.3 billion, growing by about 10% every single year. They have $14 billion in debt, which is very low. They have a lot more assets than they do have debt, and even their debt is about 3 times earnings. So I think for all these reasons, I'm giving them a PE of 20. Gives me a valuation of $86 billion. Thirdly, let's have a look at the other enterprises, and you can see the full list of their enterprises on the right hand side. Of course, we do not include BNSF and we do not include energy, but combining all the other enterprises together gives me an earnings of about $12.5 billion, which has been growing by about 10% every single year. Total debt for these companies is $37 billion, and assuming a PE of 15, which is relatively low, I do have to say in all fairness, but I'm not exactly sure what all of these companies are up to, and I'm not exactly sure what all of these companies will do in the future. And because there are so many variables for me to have a look at, I'm going to take a margin of safety and give them a PE of 15 times, giving me a valuation of $187.5 billion. And of course, their biggest part of their balance sheet are their holdings. They have $93 billion in short-term holdings as well as treasury bills, $25 billion in fixed long-term maturity assets, $308 billion in equity, of which you can see the division in equity on the right hand side, mostly Apple, Bank of America, Chevron, Coca-Cola, and a lot of other stocks as well. They have 60 billion still in expected receivables and 32 billion in cash on hand. And I do think it's important to say that they had a lot more cash on hand just about 2 years ago. They have basically spent over $100 billion of their cash on hand in the past 2 years. So they bought in heavily during this dip. And let's see if that works out for them. This gives me a total valuation of $528 billion simply in holdings alone. So let's have a summation of all the different aspects that we just looked at. BNSF, 150 billion. Berkshire Energy, 86 billion. All the other enterprises, 178 billion. Holdings, 528 billion. This gives me a total value of 951 billion. But of course, there are still a few more expenses that we have to subtract from the $951 billion, namely the deferred income taxes, as well as some other expenses that Berkshire Hathaway will be incurring in the coming future. If we include these expenses as well, I get an overall fair value of Berkshire Hathaway of $891 billion. Right now, on the open market, the market cap of Berkshire Hathaway is $678 billion. Comparing this to our estimated fair value over here, I say that Berkshire Hathaway is currently trading at 76% of its actual estimated fair value. And normally, what I do here on the channel is project this into the future to give an IRR calculation of what to expect in the next 10 years. But for Berkshire Hathaway, I feel very uncomfortable doing that because I think there are too many moving parts for me to give an accurate estimation of where I think Berkshire Hathaway will go in the future. I'm not sure what they will be investing in. I'm not sure what will happen once Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger go away from the company. I'm not sure exactly where they are headed. So I will not comment on future projections, only on their current value, and I think the fair value of Berkshire Hathaway is higher than what it's currently trading at. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheerio!